The death of Semyon Chorney, Yuri Kolokolnikov, apologies if I butchered that, creates fear for other mobsters, such as Rhino, Alessandro Nivola, as they hear rumors of Kraven's list. Not wanting his name to be checked off, he sets off to kill Kraven, Aaron Taylor Johnson, before Kraven gets to him. Oh boy, where do I start? This movie felt unreal. There are so many problems in this movie that it honestly felt like an unfinished product. You have structure that doesn't make any sense, characters that don't have depth or any character development whatsoever, dialogue that felt unnatural and off, but worst of all, the antagonistic forces were so weak, everything began falling apart. Let's get this over with. The movie opens up in Russia. Prisoners are being transported to a Russian prison. Kraven disguises himself as one of these prisoners in order to infiltrate this prison. After a short confrontation with some prisoners, he is taken to see Semyon, whom he slays viciously. Succeeding in his mission, he escapes prison while his roommate cheers him on. The problem with this opening is that we get nothing out of it besides seeing that Kraven is athletically capable. There is nothing that establishes his character, nothing that preemptively tells us or informs us of who these characters are or why Kraven is there in the first place. And granted, it doesn't necessarily have to explain everything right off the bat. That's what the movie is going to do. The problem is that the movie also fails to do this. The only thing that comes out of it is just a series of dominoes falling because of Kraven's actions, which is good because his actions are what propels the story to move forward. It's just how terrible these dominoes fell that was the problem. But of course, I will get to that in just a second. 16 years earlier, we are shown the story of the Kravenov brothers. Their father, Nikolai Rosokrow, informs them that their mother killed herself because she was sick and weak. Instead of hosting a funeral, he takes them hunting for the legendary lion known as Tsar. In this short scene, and the one that follows, we get to see the character of Nikolai. Not much information is provided with this character other than he's a mobster wanting his children to take over his drug trafficking operations, and that his unorthodox teachings can be harsh. The thing is, his teachings arguably is not altogether bad. The lessons he wants to provide aren't bad. It's just how he does it and what he says. That's the problem. The problem is that there was not a lot of nuance and depth to this dialogue and motivations behind these scenes that honestly just felt like watching a story unfold. Only the basic information is provided and nothing else. I wouldn't have much issue in this, but because most of the information provided here is very crucial for the movie, let alone characters, that's why I take issue. If you really look at it, a lot of key details and information was provided through dialogue, which, if you know by now, is the wrong way of presenting information in a movie. Not only does Nikolai's actions not seem that cruel as they should be, the information about the mother goes nowhere in the movie, yet is said to play a huge role in Kraven's character. It was said to hold significance, but was absent from it throughout the movie. We cut to Calypso playing with cards. That was an obvious setup, but with no smart payoff. A cheaply written scene that is soulless and terrible because it's forced and only serves the purpose of advancing the plot in a not so meaningful way. Not to mention that to me, this scene undermines Kraven's ability as a whole. The main takeaway here is that Calypso saves Sergei, Levi Miller, and leaves him the card provided by his grandmother. The mystery of the card and the vial makes Kraven want to know more about both, something that halfway and at the end of the movie gets undermined when the solution comes easily or doesn't seem to hold any significance whatsoever. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's continue. Being taken home from the hospital, Nikolai asks Sergei why he didn't shoot. Not liking the answer, he tells his son that he is weak, showing him how it's done by presenting him Tsar's head mounted on the wall. This seems to be the nail in the coffin for Sergei, causing him to lash out and run away, leaving his brother Dmitri, Billy Barat, behind with their father.
Get to the part where I start to give a shit.
Yet again, More poorly written scenes that should be highly character driven and focused are merely brushed with the most basic and utterly vague storyline and sets of dialogue. Sergei needs to get mad at his father, which prompts him to run away at night, with no real scenes that demonstrate Nikolai's tight grasp on their life or any strong reasons and motivations for lashing out, let alone running away. But the story needs to happen, so the story continues. Sergei's reasonings for leaving is, I can't explain it, which is the weakest reasoning you can ever write. It was like the writers also didn't know and couldn't figure it out, so they left it in the script that way. Running away to Russia, Sergei lives his life improving his abilities. He comes across some poachers, and through his rage, he kills them. Now in the present, we see even more poachers killing these animals, where again, Kraven kills these men. He somehow tracks Andrei down. In this scene, the list gets introduced for the very first time, if I'm not mistaken, but only mentioned through dialogue, which somehow the bad guys find out about this list because, wouldn't you know it, we need the story to continue.
I will be adding these names to my list.
But then again, I hear he's got a list. Once you're on it, you never come off. And there's a good chance you're on it.
Kraven meets up with Calypso and asks if she was the one who gave him the card, using being a hunter as the reason behind finding her. Kraven tells Calypso that he took care of Semyon, coming full circle with the opening. Now, if the movie was any good, there should have been hints or indications that he was doing this for Calypso. The card? No. The scene after the flashback does not count, because this happens afterwards and only serves the purpose of him having this burning question of this card. This gets contradicted when Kraven meets Calypso.
Welcome home. You stayed under the radar as usual. Call me when you need me again.
What would you say if I told you? I already did.
Did he keep tabs on her for a while? How did he know about Semyon? When did he make a list? Why didn't he talk to Calypso earlier? Kraven says he wants to make a change, telling Calypso that her clients aren't angels and should be put to justice. Yet what he's doing isn't exactly correct either. If he can find Calypso with a card, then why does he need Calypso's help in finding people? I thought hunting was his gimmick. No? And I have not even mentioned how forced and unrealistic this conversation was. All these questions being asked by not only me means that something's wrong with the story, with the writing. And I'll come back to this in just a bit. Though we get another mention of the list and quite possibly see it for the first time, this scene only served one purpose: the scene that follows. Somehow this information of the list is known to the bad guys, prompting Rhino to act accordingly. After gaining a new partnership, they go after Nikolai in his own grounds. The next scene, a USB is shown up in the goon's doorstep. Checking the contents of this flash drive, the identity of Kraven is discovered, which made me audibly question the movie. It was mentioned earlier that no one knows the identity of this Kraven, or even acknowledge the existence of this hunter. They think he's a myth, someone who does not exist. Yet a full database is encrypted in a flash drive, and they take this information willingly. No questions whether or not it's a setup. Nothing. Okay? And while at the end it was revealed how this USB came into play, who was behind it, I still think it was done poorly. The foreigner, Christopher Abbott, is introduced, piquing my interest. But wouldn't you know it, he doesn't really do much in this movie but advance the plot. Anyway, being Dimitri's birthday, Kraven visits him. Being sorry for leaving Dimitri years ago, he leaves Dimitri in his room to sleep outside. Again, no scenes prior to this helps enforce his inability to sleep in these types of rooms or equivalent. Just enough to get by and have the story continue. Because of this, Dimitri is captured and the story progresses. Unsuccessful of getting Dima back, Kraven goes to Calypso, asks for her help on identifying the man who kidnapped his brother, undermining his ability of hunting he claims to have. Let's put a pin on this. Being sent into a trap, Kraven travels to northern Turkey. Finally giving us the promise of the premise an hour and 10 minutes in is very disappointing. Unfortunately, it was over pretty quickly. So let's continue. When Rhino talks to Dimitri about the list, I scoffed yet again. How did the hunter's list become known? Yes, like I mentioned before, his father was behind it. But still, it does not make any sense. Let me summarize what happens next. Calypso is compromised and manages to escape with Kraven. The Rhino explains his origins through dialogue, which was terrible. The foreigner meets with Rhino, informing him of Kraven's whereabouts. Kraven begs Calypso to tell him the contents of the vial without informing us why he wants it, nor that he was in search of this answer all this time. Rhino pays Kraven a visit, but is ultimately defeated. The foreigner is also killed, but by Calypso, saving Kraven yet again. I forget. Is this movie called Calypso or Kraven?
Okay then.
Calypso gives more substance to Kraven as Kraven was injected by a hallucinogenic toxin. Here the mother comes back into play. Being a hallucination, she yells spiders. And that's it. This only sparked curiosity and confusion. It served no purpose. So I was confused why it was even in the movie, as if it held any significance whatsoever. But at least we got a cool hunting scene. But it ended quickly again. And while I did also like the fight with the foreigner, I will say that it was also disappointing that Calypso killed the foreigner. Lastly, the ending left me questioning whether or not Kraven accepted his father by putting on that suit, since it was a gift from his father. Someone who he dislikes and hates, yet chose to keep a gift from his father that embraces his hunting, something his father wanted him to do. Okay? Now at the end, I was glad the movie was over. I know I'm being harsh. I did still have a good time, all things considered, but that was just because I was laughing throughout the movie as the story unfolded. But I do have to give credit to the movie. It is a good example on how not to write a story.
Your mother is dead. She took own life. She was weak.
He should have killed you!
What is going on with you?
I'm going. I have to.
Why?
I can't explain it. Something's happened to me.
This all you had to go on? How'd you find me?
Hunting people down is sort of my thing. Ownership. From inside that firm, you can find people I can't. And then I can
Yeah,
do
I
what-
get it.
Give it here. Are you going to make me beg? You know I don't beg.
You gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding.
Overall, Kraven was bad on all fronts. And even though I did like how it was Kraven's actions of killing Semyon that prompted the story, the rest of the story was weak and stupid. You can clearly see some beats within this movie, as if a scene was written on a flashcard and put on a corkboard, but with no clear bridge connecting them. These bridges collapsed. This to me feels like a first draft. What was part of the movie wasn't altogether bad if it would have been developed further, if these bridges were actually built correctly and these scenes as well. How? Well, by first having a strong foundation, that being the overall story. So if you're ever writing a story, keep that in mind. And while I'm at it, Do not have any reasonings behind characters' actions be because I said so. I can't explain it. I hunt, etc. It's weak, shallow, and makes you seem like a lazy writer. Do not have scenes that sole purpose is to provide necessary information for the story to continue, or for the following scene to make sense. Even though that's what a scene is supposed to do, add more significance to the scene besides informing the audience of crucial events or information, such as having things unfold that are in relation to character development, whether it be a hurdle being jumped over, a hurdle being added, or a hero stumbling from this hurdle. Something that provides nuance, subtext, and meaning behind every scene, every action, and every dialogue spoken. Because that way, it's not only a scene involving information, it's now a scene focused on character while providing this information. It has a reason to be there other than just informing the audience, hey, you need this information for the next scene to make sense. Do you get me? Because if you choose to ignore the rules of storytelling, you get a movie like this one. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. Did you enjoy the movie? Let me know what you thought about it down below, and I'll see you in the next review. Until then, God bless.